knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with. That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I will slap you.
Go ahead, make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. We're here 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 9 to noon Eastern Standard Time. Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. Talking about a book that everybody should get. It's Christmas time. You should buy truckloads of them and give them out to your friends, your family, your enemies. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or just running around. Peter Schweizer is my guest, the author of Throw Them All Out. And you got to get this book, folks. Peter, how can folks, as though I didn't know already, how can folks get your book?
It's available, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, and at bookstores around the country.
You're just all over the place, man. Whenever I turn my TV on, the radio, look out my window, there you are.
Yeah, people. I think people are going to start getting sick of me pretty soon. They certainly, some of the politicians in Washington have gotten sick of me. I mean, since the book came out, they've now called for hearings in both the House and the Senate on insider trading in Congress. There's a hearing tomorrow. There's a hearing next Tuesday in the House and in the Senate. Some of the people I actually name in the book for engaging in interesting stock practices are on those committees, and I've been told that I don't need to testify because I'm, quote, politically toxic, which I take as a compliment. So. I'm
telling you. What does it feel like to affect a society in a good manner? This is something good that's happening.
Well, I'm very encouraged. I mean, in the sense that there's some sort of benchmark. You can see movement in this direction and legislation that's being developed. It hasn't passed yet. We need to keep that focus on. And that's encouraging. I mean, there's so many battles raging around us these days, whether it's for the family or for social values. And sometimes it's hard to know, whether we're winning victories or not. You can measure that in terms of people's lives changed, et cetera. But a lot of times it's hard to tell. And it's just been encouraging to know that we're actually seeing movement, and this is part of the national debate now, and that people want to pass, at least some people in Congress want to pass a law that says this is illegal.
Yeah. I'm wondering during the break, what took this so long to come out? I'm sure it's been going on for a while. Why haven't someone spoke up about this before now?
Oh, no, that's a great question. The fact is, I think that the Washington press corps, in a way, they're kind of in a dilemma. Okay, they have a job, which is to sort of cover and watch Congress. But, it's a little bit like if you're the sports reporter covering the hometown football team. I mean, if you run a story that says, the players stink and the management's corrupt, you're not going to get invited into the locker room. You can criticize one player, or maybe you can criticize one coach, but you can't indict the entire team. And what I do in my book is really say this is not a problem of just one or two corrupt people. This is a compromised system.
Yeah.
They're not going to get invited into the locker room. They're not going to get the private briefings or the tips that they get right now. So the Washington press corps has ignored this story, I think, largely for that reason.
Wow. Barney Frank, the Democratic congressman from Massachusetts, announced that he's leaving. He's not going to run again. Is this because of your book and the Tea Party movement?
I do think that last time, I remember forget what the numbers were, but he had a very tight race, actually. A Republican ran very strongly against him. And I think part of it is he sees the handwriting in the wall. I have to say, I don't know if there's much of anything that I would agree with Barney Frank on in terms of the issues.
I'm telling you.
But I will say he does not look like he's one of these guys that got rich being in office. I have to give him credit for that. But he has said that in his letter explaining that he was not going to run for re-election, he did say that he ignored the problem of congressional insider trading and wishes that he had done more earlier. So at least there's an admission by him that this is an issue that needs attention,
yes.
and he says he ostensibly wants to do something about it.
We're running out of time here. Give us another example of this insider trading.
Well, there's what I call the land deal. You have the guys that trade stocks on information. I'll give you an example. Former Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, when he was Speaker of the House, bought 160 acres of farmland in rural Illinois, which is where he's from. 3 or 4 months later, he put in an earmark to use $220 million of our money in the highway bill for building something called the Prairie Parkway. The Prairie Parkway happens to run just by the property that he had bought a few months earlier. So what was land that was once out in the middle of nowhere now is going to have this nice highway by it. And, of course, a few months later, he was able to sell it for more than twice what he paid for it. So he literally made $2 million off of just that one transaction.
Wow.
And again, what's so frustrating about this is it's not only legal, but the ethics committees say it's okay. It's okay for members of Congress to personally profit in the sense that their real estate values go up with earmarks, as long as they can demonstrate at least one other person has benefited. That's a pretty low moral standard, if you ask me.
I'm telling you, man. What do you expect going to happen with this change now that it's being exposed, and what can we do?
Keep the heat on. I say throw them all out because I am politically conservative, but I think we all, whatever our politics are, we have to have a zero-tolerance policy for this.
Yeah.
Even if it's somebody that's our guy, if there is moral corruption involving finances going on, I'm sorry, we can find somebody else that I agree with on the issues that's going to be clean in this area. So we've got to keep the heat on. The only reason these hearings are taking place is because they are feeling the heat from people that are so upset about this. These people want to keep their jobs, so we need to let them know that they can keep their jobs only if they deal with this problem.
You're right about that. I noticed that when CBS confronted Nancy Pelosi about it, it was a shock to her. I thought that she was going to pass out there for a moment.
Yeah, she was pretty stunned. And I have to say that Steve Croft, the correspondent there, he was dogged. He just kept right on it.
Oh, yeah, he did. I was surprised. I was surprised that they went after her like that.
Yeah, no, it was very encouraging, and I think it's because it was just such an egregious thing. I mean, when you're Speaker of the House, as you know, Jess, you have enormous power.
Yeah.
You can decide if you don't want a bill to even be voted on, you have that power. And to be in that position, and then a big corporation comes up to you and says, we want to give you access to these 5,000 shares of stock, and to think that it's okay to take them and cash in, it to me is just, I think it just stunned them, and I think they did a good job on it.
The book is Throw Them All Out. Make sure you get this book, folks. Peter Schweizer is the author of the book. My final question, Peter, were you surprised that CBS 60 Minutes took your book on and did such an excellent job of introducing it to the public?
Well, you never know what's going to happen. The book was given to them by my publisher about 6 months ago, the manuscript. They liked it. They obviously had complete control of the story, so I didn't know what was going to come out, but I had faith in them that they were going to follow the facts, and they did. They obviously retraced my steps and confirmed the facts themselves, so I was very encouraged by that, and I think that, Nancy Pelosi's office started a campaign with them because I am conservative to say that this was part of a right-wing smear campaign against her. But guess what? People aren't buying it. It's kind of hard to accuse 60 Minutes of being a right-wing smear machine.
When I meet people like you or hear about people like you with such courage and love for what is right, it encourages me to keep going. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for what you're doing.
Well, and thank you so much for what you're doing, speaking out about not just politics, but moral values and issues, the family. You are a national treasure to us, so thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Peter. God bless you, man, and thanks for coming on.
You.
All right.
All right.
Bye now. We're going to take a break. 888-7753-773.
This has been the Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show, produced by Bond Action. To access the podcast of this show, visit us on the web at bondaction.org.